wow, I have no depth. Like,
It looks kind of like baby diarrhea.
what you talking about, Willis?
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if we've had anything negative said from that standpoint.
Not yet.
All right, guys, welcome to the Influencers Podcast. So excited to have you, Gary and Willis, here out of PureFunding. And so one of my favorite things about you guys, okay, seriously, is that whenever I work like on the west side of Fort Worth or Weatherford,
Yeah.
and I bring you guys up, like people know you and they love you. And it's like, there's this thing, I'm like, man, they're building something out there that transcends the, PureFunding side of things, that transcends, loans and all this stuff. It's like, it's this community. And I love that you implement your social media. You implement, just even being consistent. That was the other thing I was going to say that I really enjoy about you guys is like, man, you guys grind it out, not just in your business and building that, but also your social media content. Like there's no excuses when I see your content, and it's like, you can wait until it's like super perfect, super crisp. And we were talking about this earlier, how to make your content better. But at the same time, I'm like, everybody's excuse is this like, oh, it's not as good as I want it to be. And then they're paralyzed by it. So I just wanted to, celebrate you guys on that. I really love that. And so with that, I just wanted to kick it off and really ask you guys, like, what was it, that mindset shift that you guys had? Like what caused that to like, have you guys go all in on your content and just be consistent with it?
I don't know. You want me to
Yeah,
take
Gary.
that first
Gary, let me just say this.
Yeah.
The reason we post so much is because of Gary. So let's just get that out there. Like he is constantly filming, constantly wanting to put more stuff out there, and he really has just taken all the different people who have said you need to stop with the excuses and taken all the excuses out and just posts all the time.
That's awesome.
I mean,
yeah, I think the cool thing about us is that there's a couple guys out there in the mortgage space that say he ends his podcast with anything worth doing is worth doing poorly, I think is his comment. And when I first heard that, it was like, the nails on the chalkboard. But if you think about it, it's like, man, just do it, right? Yeah. Like Gary V, just post, right? Yeah. Like he just had a post this week. And so that we got to the point where I'm super untechnical when it comes to all this stuff. And I was like, I would rather have the content out there and it be not great versus it not trying to get it perfect. And so that was kind of the deal. And we, first year we would post maybe a couple times a week and people would say, oh yeah, you guys are doing great. And then I looked at the numbers and then it was when I got Hootsuite, to kind of bring everything together. And then it was like a light bulb went off and it was like, you're not posting nearly enough. And so last year was a very big effort. And so when Willis, I'm chasing him with the camera and stuff. So.
What you talking about, Willis?
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. That's
awesome.
So
it's good. Cool. We've been able to kind of step up our game from that standpoint. And just doing more. Now it's like, hey, we've got some cadence. Now let's get a little creative. Let's do a little bit more, some more professional stuff, but yet keeping the authentic feel, right? Like so, like this week. It's freezing here in Texas. It's snowing. I'm like threw my hood on and I'm doing a video about the jobs report. So like it just, mix it up. Yeah. Just do it where you are in the moment. And,
that's awesome.
Knock on wood. It's working pretty good.
No, that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How did you feel like, we were talking about your community in Weatherford and all that. How was it like when you guys, first, obviously before there was a time when you didn't do content, right? And then you started doing content. Like, how did that transition like happen even within your community? How did you feel like, was it widely accepted? Was it criticized? Was it kind of like, what did you feel that approach was?
No, I don't think anyone ever criticized us for it. A lot of people just, the feeling is that people should be posting more. For businesses, it feels like everyone's telling you should be posting more and you get, there's so much to do on it. You get a lot of people that just freeze up and don't do anything. And so I think a lot of people saw us posting and were really excited about that and encouraged to kind of get out and do it themselves. I mean, that's the one thing that you'll hear people say is y'all have an amazing social media presence. Cool. Like, and we get it all the time. And part of that's our community. Our community is a really cool community. It's it's just on the outside of DFW, and so there's a lot of close-knitness that comes that we don't always feel. We're starting to build that in Fort Worth, but it was a comfortable sized community to really start where we were. And that's one of the things I think really helped us grow as much as we did, is that we found a place in a community that wanted to support people building businesses in it. And so they came together and they support each other, and they, we hang out with the people that we work with. And that's so awesome. It really has built a community there with it. And so they've been really, really supportive. I don't know if we've had anything negative said from that standpoint.
Not yet. I'm sure somebody will. People
That's
give me a hard time about the jobs report post.
What's some like pushback you get on that?
I think it's more of a fun jab, kind of, talking about. There's Gary talking about the jobs reports, because I get, if you follow, and I did a jobs report post today because the government isn't the best at counting, I don't think. I guess I don't want to get but anyways, awesome. We get feedback on that. And then the what you talking about Willis stuff, that's always a good one.
That's cool. I love that.
And then like most of our stuff's education, right? Like, so we're trying to talk about, hey, you've got a problem. We've got a lot of solutions. And so that's what we try to do is show folks there are other options out there than what is kind of in the normal setting. And so we use social media, and part of the social media is like, it's free. Right. Like we're not like, trust me, we spend a lot of marketing dollars that cost a lot of money. It costs you nothing to pull your phone out. You know what I mean?
And sometimes the leads you get out of that are like, they pay off way more than, the marketing efforts that you put in and stuff.
1,000%.
That's crazy. So one thing that, the reason I was asking, about the criticizing and everything is because I think a lot of people don't step out because they are scared. They're afraid that when they do step out, that everyone that knows them is going to criticize them because they knew them before they started doing the thing, right?
And that's a good point.
There's this like insecurity. And so I was wondering if you guys had experience that, just because a lot of people will do that, and they'll hesitate and they won't take that leap to really step out.
I mean, it's the way I look at that, and we get that a lot. Like a lot of the agents will come in and they know that we do post. It's not perfect. It's on my phone. I don't have a crew behind me or anything like that, or with Willis. And I think at that point, it's like 2 years ago, I definitely had the same, what are the, now I'm talking about mortgages all the time on social media. Like, why did it? But here's the deal. I like to eat. Right.
That's
I like to go on vacation. And so if I can figure out a way to reach more people organically without a dollar figure associated to it, I'm willing to take that's time well spent for me as a business owner. And so, getting over that point where it's like, hey, either you eat or you don't eat. And it's easier to risk something when it's free versus, spending $30,000 on a billboard. You still don't know if it's going to generate anything. I'd rather do it for free and maybe generate something. You know what I mean? So
that's so good. Any thoughts on that, Willis?
I mean, no, not, he kind of hit it. I mean, there were some, like I said, I don't think anyone's really had negative feedback on what we're doing so far. We've had a couple people with a post when we've posted something that they thought wasn't correct or it was different or something like that. And, you have that kind of stuff, but really people have just been really have really embraced us in doing it. I get a ton of people saying, "What you talking about, Willis?"
That's
so
awesome.
we capitalized on it.
Right?
It's branding. It's branding.
Like you do the same thing that sticks, and you just you stick with it, and people will recognize you whenever you walk into the room. It's like they'll know. Same thing with I was having a conversation with one of my clients, and he was literally about to ask me if I drink coffee, and he cut himself off. He's like, "Hey, do you drink coffee?" He's like, "Oh, actually, I see your workflow videos every day, So I'm walking around with my stories, just like showing what we're about to do, and it's like, it's just something that I knew intentionally that if I did that, people will just every day they'll know like, oh, what's the workflow today, you know? And maybe it doesn't happen every day where I post it, but when I am doing it, it's like I am super intentional. And that's what blows me away with what you were talking about earlier is like, you know, it just, I'm like, man, I wish people would realize the value behind going on social media and just whether it's promoting their business, providing educational value through videos, because the whole thing is like, it's this broad spectrum of like what they'll get out of it, right? So like one, you might get leads, right? And you might get an opportunity to convert some sales and stuff like that. But the other side of it too is like you're going to get better at communicating. You're going to get better at what you say. You're going to really, really learn. There's this concept that, you know, you never really learn something until you've been able to teach it. Right. Yeah. And so I feel like I try to do that every time. Whenever I read something, I'm like, oh, how can I post this on my story? So that way it stays in me, you know? And so I feel like people really like sound like they know what they're talking about when they've, you know, recorded a video or something. And now it's like, oh, they know what they're talking about. Because now they'll have a conversation and they'll go back to what they said in the video and it's like, oh, it's refined, you know, there's been practice behind it. And so I really love that. One of the things I was thinking about too, even with your team. So you guys have 9 people. Is it 9 people total, give or take?
Right.
It's like,
right at 9.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's exciting. That's cool. And so my thought and my question was, okay, how are you guys like bringing in this culture? Because it's starting from the top, which is awesome. Yeah. At least it's not starting from the bottom where it's like, you know, maybe an assistant that's like, hey, we need to do content. And you're kind of like, no, it's like starting from the top. You guys are bought in. Right. So how are you guys empowering your team to really go all in on content as well?
So a big part of that is just setting the example and putting it out there. But the second part is having those support aspects to it as well. Like we're trying to build out a podcast room. It's not as cool as this one, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Like we're trying to build out a podcast room to where, or I guess vlogcast would be the technical, to where somebody can just plug and play. They can come in, hit a button, record whatever they want to, and have that as just an added benefit for being on our team. And then really we'll record anything with anyone, and any one of them wants to, we can sit down and do it. And you know, just like everything, it's pulling teeth sometimes. But Gary's really good about consistently putting out that message that they need to be leveraging social media. Because it is free. You can't say it enough. It's free. Just get out there and post something.
That's good. What do you think, Gary?
Yeah, I think to kind of echo what Willis was saying, the thing about social media is like, I want to control the message, right? I want to control my narrative, and you can do that through social media, right? And we know it works because we'll get a client and they're in the process, and you know, they'll watch what you're talking about, Willis video on YouTube, and say, hey man, I saw that video like on a 2-1 buy down. He's like, is that something I can do? That's and cool. So it's like it's one of those things where it's like you put it in the library and people are still going to go back and see it. So you're not always having to work for it. And so it just gives you a lot of credibility in the market. And you know, that's the part I like about it is you control the narrative. You control what is being said about your business, and not somebody just having to guess, right? Like, that's the big thing.
And if you're in sales, controlling the narrative is such a big thing, because people are always writing a story in their mind about what's happening, right? And if they don't know you and they don't know your passion about what you're doing, and something goes wrong, they are going to write something into that story that you weren't doing what you were supposed to be doing. You were off playing golf or whatever, you know, whatever it might be. You just didn't do what you're supposed to. If they know how much you care and they see that, and you can tell people that all the time, but them seeing it in social media reiterates that and supports it. There's a lot more slack given to you when something isn't going perfect. And, you know, in real estate, it's an imperfect process. As much as we take out all the pain points that you can in getting a mortgage and getting a home bought, and we have taken out a lot, and there is a lot that we have done to make it a smooth process and take care of people. things come up,
Yeah,
you know, and things come up, and people, you know, people are, oh, well, why are you needing this document late? Well, you gave us a different document that showed that we had to ask for this document now. Like, so, you know, things like that come up. But if they understand and you're able to control that narrative of why you're doing what you're doing, those conversations are so easy.
Yeah.
And you're not fighting for anything, and they understand that you're in this together, working towards this goal of them being a homeowner.
Yeah.
And that's really a huge benefit. Like you said, leads might come from it, but really controlling the narrative of who you are and why you do what you do is probably one of the biggest things that social media can do. And it's free.
Yeah. Yeah. You touched on this, Gary, a little bit, where, you know, one of the ways I've approached this is like, I'm not doing this to become more known, right? To like become more famous or anything like that. I'm doing this to build a profitable business, you know? And if there's no profits, then really all I'm doing is just garnering more likes, more views. And for some people that's enough, but for me, I'm like, that's not enough. And so what I wanted to ask you guys is like, what content have you seen that you guys have been producing in the past that's like, hey, we've gotten some leads from this, we've gotten some sales from this, and you know, where do you feel like you're kind of maybe focusing a little bit more in regards to that content?
So we kind of look at, marketing is marketing, whether it's social media or radio or billboards or whatever. Like, you start at the top of the funnel, get the impressions, start getting some engagement, then you start the conversation, then you convert that client. But, you know, the biggest, I think, type of content that we get is the educational stuff. So one of the first leads we got off of TikTok, for instance.
Awesome,
have I told you the story?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so we're licensed in Oklahoma as well. It's the only state that we don't have boots on the ground.
Gotcha.
And so I get a call, and this lady's, I could tell she's nervous, and talking to me and talking about their cattle people, and they're wanting to buy like, I don't know, 50 or 80 acres. I can't remember what it was. Anyways, so we're going, and I'm like, I'm waiting for that opportunity to ask her where she found us. Well, then we keep talking, and she's like, well, my husband, she's like, I'm so embarrassed to say this, and but my husband found you on TikTok talking about farm and ranch stuff. That's awesome. So he started following us. Well, long story short, we end up getting a deal out of that. He becomes a realtor. So, you know, I pick up 2 real estate agents off of it, and, you know, a couple deals out of it. And so, and I was literally this close to like cutting out TikTok as something I posted on, because it was like the engagement was okay. And so,
what's the age group that you're posting to? And you hear all that stuff, really, you know, it's younger people that are on TikTok. So are they even buying homes? And they are, and they're becoming realtors.
But I think too, I think to answer your question is the educational stuff is, you know, it's funny. We post an educational video and we'll get our normal standard views, likes, couple comments, but then we'll go to the rope horse for charity and post one of our, you know, Cade Rice doing a run, and views go through the roof, and I'm like, man, why can't we have something more fun than you know, FHA loans to talk about? So, but it's definitely the educational stuff is because it serves the two purposes, right? It gives you front and center, hey, this is what we're doing, but also that passive viewer that is doing research, they can find that video that we did a year ago, and it reinforces what we're doing.
That's awesome. So I feel like a lot of people would, you know, just like when they see that where a video pops off because, you know, like you're at this event and you film it and it's like really cool stuff, right? You know, roping and all of that, and then it'll pop off and people will all of a sudden try to shift all of their content to do that. And that's one thing I've realized, especially in the real estate industry. A lot of our clients are real estate agents. And one thing that I'm constantly pushing to them is to do educational content. Hardly anyone is doing educational content. Like the, you know, 2 videos that I'm like, at least you should do every year, do it again, you know, where it's like top three things you need to know to buy a house. Top 3 things you need to know to sell your house, you know, to get it ready, all of that stuff. And there's this so much, you know, missed opportunity. Right. And it's because people are scared of what they're going to sound like, what they're going to say, and what people might perceive of them.
So I'll piggyback on that, and I think we have the same problem. I think this is agnostic to whatever industry you're in. I think strategy is one of them, and strategy is a big word.
Yeah.
But plan, right? So I'll have weeks where I've planned out. I know we've got some events. I know we've got some things going on. So I feel really good about our content. Yeah. Like that we're gonna make. But then there's weeks where I haven't been as thoughtful about that. I'm worrying about other stuff that is paying
running
the bills.
A business.
So,
true, yeah.
But I think if you'll, at minimum, just jot down like, hey, you know what you got coming up this week, right? Like write down 4 or 5 things, and then if like from an agent's perspective, you're going to be at a listing or you're going to an inspection. Take 2 minutes with your inspector and say, hey, what are the 3 things you look for? Kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, 100%.
As an inspector, that you would tell a home buyer to be cautious about or thinking about. And so that's what I'm trying to do is be more thoughtful in our planning.
That's so good.
And just because it'll take that fear out, because if you're just sitting there looking at a blank sheet of paper, like you're like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. And that takes a lot of that out of the equation.
That's so good. You have every day there's an opportunity, right, to like come up with the list of, frequently asked questions. And once you start doing that, then you start making a note, and then you start, okay, how can I answer these questions?
Well, and the thing is that the majority of the population, we overthink when it comes to educational stuff. We think, I need to teach them like the really hard stuff, and I need to teach them how to calculate debt to income ratio. You know what? The one thing we found out, the majority of people in the United States think you have to put 20% down on a home. I forget the statistic. It's a massive number of people that think you have to put 20% down.
That's crazy.
And you can go as little as 1% down on a conventional loan, 3.5% on FHA, 0% down on VA. And so, there's so many opportunities to just educate on the low-hanging fruit that we take for granted that a lot of people don't realize. And we take it for granted because we're in the industry. We're sitting here seeing it every single day. And so we have to kind of step back and say, okay, what does the average person not know so I can do it? And then, like Gary was saying, while you're doing the things you're doing in your life, pull out your phone and record yourself. And record yourself.
Record Danny.
Record Danny.
Yeah, you guys did, right? As soon as you guys came into this, before the podcast started, you were recording, and it's like that's so good. That's what you need to do, right? It's like, and I think we did a class, a couple weeks ago, and that was one of the things that I shared is like, hey, you just film yourself doing whatever it is that you do. If you're doing an open house, like, film yourself doing the setup. Do a voiceover, like, hey guys, join me on my open house today. This is what we're gonna do, and people stay engaged or watching you, and it might be even cool to bring maybe just an idea, bringing in people on like live calls, and you could always like bleep out information and stuff like that. But I feel like that's content that's engaging, especially for TikTok. Like you see it in car sales people, they're having all these sales calls, and it's like it just hits, And so just some thoughts. But I wanted to kind of shift a little bit, and I feel like a lot of people. We're talking about insecurity and all that stuff, and so even as like guys, as men, there's like some things that we don't talk about as far as like, oh no, we're good, like I'm good, I don't care, the way I look, this and that. So I wanted to ask you, real talk, like what are some, when you guys first started, what are some insecurities that you guys felt that maybe other people are dealing with right now? Because the reality is like a lot of my clients are ladies, and sometimes the ladies will be like, hey, make sure everything's looking good and everything, but I'm like, they're the ones that are doing it. It's a lot of the guys that aren't like really doing it, and I'm like, why is that? Do they feel insecure? What's going on? And so I just wanted to, see what you guys thought, any insecurities that might help someone right now, and, how did you overcome that?
Practice. So the camera in your phone gives you an opportunity to kind of fine tune your message, right? And so when we started 2.5 years ago, we had never done any local marketing. My world was, I worked at larger companies, worked on really different kind of business, all in consumer finance, but there was no, sitting around 25 real estate agents telling them about, my business. So I was very uncomfortable with that. It was definitely out of my comfort zone. But as you practice like that, like, you know, Willis is really good at it. You can put Willis anywhere. You put him in a room of 50 people, he's walking out with 3 leads. Like, he's that guy. You know, me getting up and talking in front of people, like it was, and still is to an extent uncomfortable, right? Yeah. But I think you know, you have to, like, if you're in this business, you just got to get, and it's okay to be uncomfortable. Like, that's where growth happens. It's not, you know, everything needs to be a grand slam, right? Yep. So I think, you know, it's a hard question to answer because everybody's different. Yeah. But where you know you're uncomfortable, stay there. You'll get better. Yeah. And then something else will be uncomfortable. Yeah. And then you'll figure that out. But I think that's, like, for me, over the last 2.5 years, it's like getting up in front of 25 to 50 people and talking about your business. As weird as that sounds, like, I want to, and like I just said, I like to eat, but like, if I'm not talking to these people, then who's talking to them, right? And so I think that's, you know, being in that uncomfortable setting and just figuring out, like, taking small bites away. And so, like, 2 years later, it's easier. And, you know, it's, none of this is like you wake up the next day and you're in the big leagues kind of thing. Like, it takes time. Like, you know,
that's good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What, okay. So obviously the last couple of years in real estate have been a little tough. So how did you overcome difficulties in the market and just even continue to push through that? You know, just because a lot of people, I feel like, fell off in their marketing in the last, I mean, even a lot of people fell off from the industry, right? Like, we lost a lot of agents, we lost a lot of, you know, LOs and stuff. And so what are some things that you guys did, like the mindset? What kind of mindset do people need to have when the market is in a dip, you know, and it's on
you
its
have
way
to
up?
have that. So we basically sprinted a marathon. I don't know if that's a healthy thing to do. But when we got started, we just kept outworking everyone. And we went to more events. We posted more. We put money into marketing that we had never thought we would have. We did billboards. We did radio. We actually are doing print now, which we never thought we would have. And so it really is it was a shotgun approach, and we just tried to outwork everyone. That's cool. And we knew that if we worked really hard for the first few years and put all the money back into the company, that there would be dividends later on. And we're starting to see that. We're, you know, this is the year.
I know. Every year's the year.
Every year's the year. This is the year where we're waiting for it to, you know, pay off. But that was a big part of it. You know, you want to say it's a marathon, which it is. You got a lot to do, and it takes a long time, but we had to build a market presence. And I'll say the best thing about it is because we were a partnership and we were doing it together, we were there to encourage each other.
That's good. That's awesome.
Like, there were days I didn't want to go do something, and Gary's like, hey, let's go. And
that's good.
There's days that he didn't want to go somewhere. I'm like, or would see the market tanking. I'm like, hey, we're just selling the rate in front of us today. And that's what it is. People still have to buy homes. People are still moving here. So
it's huge.
So we just kept going and encouraging each other and moving on. And see, like, I've never had a problem getting up in front of people or being recorded or anything like that. But I do have a problem, and he's done really good about holding me accountable, is I want, like, the best equipment. Like, I'm kind of a gearhead like that. I'm like, well, we got to get, you know, $8,000 worth of lenses and cameras now to make this work. And he's like, no, we can do it on our cell phones. And I'm like, it looks pretty good, actually. So, you know,
and that's one of my favorite things about, you know, I said it at the beginning, is like that I love that there's not the excuse of waiting for it to be perfect, you know. No. I've said this a lot of times, where it's like, right now is when the least amount of people know who you are. The least amount of people are going to watch your videos right now. You know, maybe 6 months to a year from now, it'll multiply. That's the goal, right? But, you know, hopefully at that point it'll grow. The business will grow. Then it'll create more funds to be able to get more equipment. But the whole point is, like, I've seen so many people, and we were just talking about this, like when you guys were talking about buying mics and stuff, how you're like, let's just wait till someone on Marketplace gives up on the fact that they bought, $5,000 worth of gear. They're like, it's not working. They filmed a couple episodes and now it's for sale at a discount, There's a lot of people that do that. They'll go all in on something thinking that mindset wise they're going all in, but really they're just going in all in with their money, and it's like there's nothing to back that, and so when the times get hard or the viewers aren't showing up, like they're like, oh, I'm throwing the towel.
I'm doing something else.
Yeah, so that's wild.
And you want to see an ugly video? We did this video in our first one of our first videos on TikTok, and it's like this brown background wall, like dark but kind of light brown background wall. It looks kind of like baby diarrhea, and then we have our like blue and green sign right in the middle of it, and we're at a table, and it's like this upward angle, it's horrid. It's so bad,
but you did it.
But we did it.
It's out there,
and it's out there. You can still go see it.
Yeah.
The very first one we did is we're both sitting there, and I was off camera, and I slid in on a chair, and I rolled in. And then we started talking.
That's awesome. Yeah.
We rolled in like 20 times before we got it right.
That's funny. Yeah.
Now that was actually creative, but the other one is so bad.
No, I mean, you just have to do it, right? You just like, I was, a couple of people that I've asked is like, hey, what are 2 or 3 things you would do, and like every single time the first one has been just do it. Like rip the Band-Aid off, like you said, record yourself, even if it's on your phone, like it's going to give you the most raw and authentic version of yourself. Yeah. And then you're going to realize like what you're made of, right? Yeah. So like there've been times when I record myself and I'm like, wow, I have no depth. Like there was nothing I said the most random stuff and it just didn't carry any weight. Or I'll be able to like listen back and be like, oh, like I didn't even believe myself when I said that. Yeah. And so there's this thing like, okay, if I don't believe myself, everyone that watches this is not going to believe me, So I'm like, okay, something has to change. I have to believe what I'm doing. And so,
that's good.
Yeah, I love that. So, okay, so 2025, we just started the year. Mm-hmm. What are some strategies you're going to implement this year as far as content creation that you're like, okay, this is what we're doing?
So we're working on right now, like we talked about earlier, we're going to clean up our conference room / office space / podcast room. Yeah. So we're gonna get that, make it a little bit more professional. Yeah. And then in my office, I'm gonna set up more. I want to do more kind of that one-to-one kind of thing. Like, which I kind of do it now. Like I usually do it in my truck on the way to the office when I looked at the market and I'm like mad about something.
You're like, okay,
I'm like, here we go, guys. Like, but I think that, and then the combination of our team, we're really encouraging our team to do more, to build their own brand. So like PureFunding is like the brand, but they're buying from Danny, they're buying from Willis, they're buying from Gary, they're buying from Jennifer. So getting them comfortable, I think is a big thing for 25 for us. So it's just small bites. We're going to do a little bit different on some of the more professional stuff, and we're going to do more of it. Just because I need the content. Yeah.
You have to. No, I love that.
Have that content. Right? Content monster right there. Gary Pierce.
Yeah. So the long form, I like the long form for a couple different reasons. But like so the way we do it is we've got 2 hats in a microphone podcast, and that is strictly geared towards local business people, right? Just coming in like we're doing right now and just learn about your business, not real estate driven, not mortgage driven. And then Willis and I will just sit down and I'll just start asking him questions about, hey, man.
Can I say something about that? So I love that idea. And then, so that's the approach with this too, right? So we're bringing people from different industries in this one as well. But I love that, Gary. And I think you guys should continue to go all in on that, because a lot of people miss that. So like one of the things is like the strategy behind building and creating more exposure is like, most people think that they have to pay money to, get ads and all that stuff. Like it's important. You should implement some of that. But what's really cool is that like you're kind of hacking it a little bit, where you're getting in to where you can now tap into their followers, right? And
1,000%.
So like if you collaborate on a post, like, like the whole idea behind of this, like when we do, we cut up a reel for this podcast, like I'm probably going to collaborate with your guys' pages, you know, and then my followers will see you, your follower, and then, you know, same thing. So it's like,
100%.
It's this thing where, you know, I used to do that with like whenever I was shooting for, you know, real estate agents and stuff, and I wanted to get more business, is I would film, you know, like the behind the scenes, but I would keep myself out of it,
right?
Because I knew if I did that, it was going to be more susceptible for the agent to share it.
Right.
If my face was in it, the agent probably wouldn't share it, you know.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't me and I had Elite Media on the bottom, like they would share it, and then I would get followers from that. I would get DMs from that, and so, anyways, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's a great point, and we use it for that purpose because people want to. You know, agents, it doesn't matter if it's agents or, you know, we've had people that are, it's still real estate world, but they're property management. Like one of the guys that came in, Grant Mills, you know, he's got some really cool stuff to talk about. And frankly, it's kind of interesting that in Weatherford, Texas, that guy manages like 50, I don't even know the numbers. It's like more than that, but it's like 50 to 100 properties. Awesome. And most of them are like Airbnbs. Like, who'd have thought Weatherford Airbnb? Like, so, you know, that's awesome. That's what we want to use that for. And then, you know, promote the people within our area. And, obviously there is a hack side to it that is, you know, somewhat selfish and, you know, we're all in business. We're here to eat and make money. And so
that's awesome. That's awesome. As we kind of, you know, start landing the plane. So obviously AI is coming in strong, and it feels like it's one of those things that, if you don't start implementing it in some way or accepting it, it's like we're gonna kind of be outdated, you know, in a sense. And so we're gonna miss out, you know. And it just reminds me of like when smartphones were coming in, you know, and stuff like that. It's like people are very apprehensive at the idea, and then it comes in, and it's like, now I see, you know, these. The other day I saw this like really old gentleman driving while he was on his phone, and I'm like, how is, like, 10, 15 years ago, that would have been like the guy that didn't want a smartphone, you know, and now he's like texting and driving, and I'm like, this is crazy. But AI, you know, is like coming in strong. So what are you guys, you know, doing with AI? How are you implementing it in your business?
I mean, the biggest thing, not the biggest, one of the big things is helping us write content for our website.
Cool.
That's a big one. Helping to write
like
content
SEO
for
stuff.
SEO stuff. And helping us to write content for posts, things like that. Gary can speak more to this, but using it to write the descriptions for like a YouTube video.
Great.
Because that, you know, people overlook it, but YouTube's the second largest search engine in the world behind Google. And so if you have a good description of home buying process or something like that on there, it's huge. And so that's the things off the top of my head I can think of. What else?
So from an AI perspective, so all of our stuff has all the social media, whether we think it's AI or not, it's AI. Like they're, you know, Instagram, Facebook, there's all some sort of AI that is driving that. But so one of the cool things that we do, I use Opus Clip for Reels. And so it is, so you start out with a YouTube video, right? And you publish it out there. Let's say it's an hour video, kind of like what we're doing here. Take that video, upload it to YouTube, make your description, put it all out there, boom. Well, for somebody like me who is illiterate from an editing standpoint, I literally take that link and drop it into Opus Clips, and then about 30 minutes later on an hour video, I've got 20 reels.
It's crazy.
And the cool thing is like it's creative to the point where it'll split screen you and I talking, or like split screen Willis and I. It automatically makes the captions, and so you can publish. You know, you've got content for 5 days.
Yeah, that's cool. And how good is it? Like, in your opinion?
I would say it's 90%.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. So like they grade it. So the cool thing about it is, and I'm sure there's hundreds of different you know, tools out there, but the one we landed on was Opus Clip. So anyways, so they'll grade it and they'll say, hey, this is a really good reel because it's got a good hook, it's got good content, and it's concise, and you know, whatever other grades it gives it. And so it'll say 95 out of 100. And then as you go down to like the 20th clip, it'll say 82 out of 100 because there was like no hook, no nothing, which, but to me, that's the point where it's like, it's the filler content that you still need, right? Like it's still a good video, just might not have a hook or, you know, whatever. But we use that a lot. I use Hootsuite.
Yeah.
And so Hootsuite has an AI component to it.
Awesome.
So, I mean, whether we like it or not, everything you use has AI.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
some level of AI is involved.
Even Google search now, right? You start seeing it. And so, yeah. So with Opus Clips, when you were mentioning, like the stuff that's graded. So like, let's say the video that's graded the highest, how does it do like in relation to when you do post it on TikTok or any social media platform compared to something that's rated lower? Do you feel like you get more engagement on those, or is it kind of mixed?
Probably don't have enough data to really.
I'd be interested to see what.
It'd be nice.
It does. Those clips get better than the normal clips that we post.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because it's got the split screen.
That's cool.
It's
Yeah,
got Willis and I
really good,
together, or like top and bottom, and then the captions are in there. So the content's better, I think, from that standpoint. But
that's cool. Does it do a good job of like splitting up like segments and kind of piecing together?
I think so too. I think it does. It's smart enough to understand where a concept in a conversation starts and ends, and so that it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, but it's again, until you've got enough bandwidth to have a team behind you that you're that fully in, and there's very few folks out there that are at that level that are paying a whole team
that's true.
to video to edit, and then you just kind of forget it. I mean, we're small business owners, we got to you got to do everything.
Pretty hard, you're right, to be able to feasibly do that.
So finding those tools have been, and I've tried dozens, but in my thing, like the thing for me, barrier to entry is what is going to be the least amount of work I have to do. So that's how I judge those tools.
That's awesome.
So
someone, that's in our community that's on the fence of creating content, maybe they're scared, maybe they're just kind of maybe apprehensive to it, they're maybe feeling like they're not good enough or anything like that. What, even just briefly, what would you tell them? How would you encourage them to just, like from a perspective that like, hey, it's been a blessing for you guys, right? Using this free tool, like, how can you share that, to really motivate them to do it?
I think and I had this conversation the other day, like if we're talking about agents in particular that are reluctant, you're at houses all the time and people like to look at that stuff. So just start getting the bathroom, the kitchen, the cool backyard, the cooking area, like get all that stuff. Start there, and then you start getting more creative. Then you start, doing the voiceover. Then if you're reluctant to be on camera, then push yourself to get out there in front of the camera and talk to it. I love the voiceover. You brought that up earlier, and I give that advice all the time. Like the ladies are like, oh, I was in my sweats and I couldn't, and I get it. Like I'm, and that's where the voiceover comes in. Like you can go and get that great content and then do the voiceover. But I would just say, just take small bites. Like you're not going to wake up tomorrow and be Gary Vee, right? You know what I mean? And so I think you just got to slowly, and we see it now because a lot of the agents that we work with, they ask us a lot of questions, right? Awesome. Like they've been to your class, and so they're doing more. Like before, they would just do a flyer, and now you're seeing videos, and so it's working.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, and I mean, even with the voiceover, there's that what's his name? I forget, Adam or whatever it is that's on like all the TikToks.
Oh yeah.
Like the engagement that you get from just having that voice read something, the follow through the entire thing.
And you can use ChatGPT to create the script, right? You can tweak it.
Use ChatGPT to create the script, upload it to there, have that printed out, merge it with your video, and you didn't have to do anything except film a house you were at. Like that's it really, a lot of the hard heavy lifting has been taken away with AI. So it does make it a lot easier. If you never wanted to get in front of the camera, you could still post a lot of good content just by going to open houses.
True.
There is a realtor in Fort Worth that she has created a massive following, and all they do is film open houses that they go to that are listings, and the amount of business that she's gotten from that's been been great. No one's in front of the camera, but they're showing cool houses, and
it's awesome.
So
that's cool. I love that.
That's there's so many ways to do it. You just have to, even if what you're doing is copying something else that someone's doing, until you figure out your niche. that gets you into the habit of posting, and that's the biggest thing to overcome. You need 30 days of posting to be able to overcome that timidness of not wanting to post.
That's good. And you can't get there unless you start, right? And okay.
Take your first step.
One question that I do want to ask you guys as we wrap up, okay? What are your predictions for the real estate market 2025? Don't say anything that will get you in trouble. But what do you guys think? We have a new president coming in. Like, things are changing. So what are we expecting?
So with the market and the new president, regardless of your view and your policies, there is a hope in the marketplace. And we're seeing that because the phones are ringing. And 2 months ago, there were talks of, we might have 5 rate cuts in 2025. And now they've pulled that back drastically, especially after December. They pulled that back drastically. We have inflation that they're still worried about. It might get 1 or 2 rate cuts towards the end of the year kind of thing. So as far as the market is considered, it's going to be pretty similar to 2024 is what we're predicting right now. But that's an opportunity for realtors to get out there and to educate people, because all people want to focus on is rate. And it's easy to understand rate. I say this all the time. It's easy to understand rate because 2.5 is better than 7. And everyone can understand that. But the problem is that when rates were 2.5 and you were looking at a $400,000 home, there were 20 other offers coming in, and you had to offer $420,000 or $440,000 for a $400,000 home. And if it didn't appraise, you had to come up with the extra money out of your pocket on top of also covering your own closing costs. So there was no negotiation. You were just lucky and blessed that they chose your offer. But you got a 2.5% interest rate. But you also paid $40,000 to $60,000 more than you would have today. Nowadays, people are going in. They might have a 7% interest rate, but they're able to go in and offer below $400,000. They're able to ask for seller concessions to cover their closing costs. If the home comes in below appraised value, they go back to the seller and say, "Your home isn't worth this. You need to come off of it." And they usually do, or they meet somewhere in the middle. They have so much power as a buyer. And yes, they have a 7% interest rate, but they're probably $40,000 less than what they were 2 years ago on the same house out of pocket. And an interest rate has to be astronomically high to make up $40,000 in just a few years, because ultimately these homes where they're saving all that money right now, rates are going to come down. Maybe they aren't going to come down in 2025, but they're going to come down. And when they do, you refinance and you get that payment that you're much more comfortable with. But right now, get into the house and take advantage of the savings that you can get and keep that money in your pocket. Invest it, and then you can offset the interest rate of your house. Like there's so many things that you can do, and that's what realtors really need to focus on, is getting out there and telling the real story. Interest rates are high, but because of that, there's fewer buyers. And you have the power as a buyer right now to be able to really save money. And that, the more realtors can get out there and spread that message, the better everything's going to be. The people can really benefit this year in buying a home if they would just get out and start looking and realize as a buyer they have the power, which is awesome. We haven't seen that in years and years and years. 2023, 2024, we saw it. But before then, I don't know the last time it was a buyer's market in the FWA. I mean, you probably have to go back to 2010, And so it's a great time to buy houses, even with rates being high this year. So
love that. What do you think, Gary?
Lenders really don't have a crystal ball. They don't know what rates are going to do. None of us do.
That's true.
If I had a crystal ball, I wouldn't be in the mortgage business. I'd be doing something else. But no, it's what Willis said. It's a lot. I think a lot of the same. We need some macroeconomic things to kind of settle down once the new regime takes over and their policies kind of figure out. So we'll see. It's like Willis says, he's really good at it. Sell the rate that's in front of you that day. I'm really not good at it because I'm looking at kind of like the macro. I'm wanting that 10-year yield to start coming down, but there's nothing really that's going to drive that down. So it's you take advantage of the other opportunities. So,
That's awesome. I love that. Well, where can people find you? Where can they stay connected with you guys?
Yeah, you can find us on the website at mypurefunding.com. We're on social media, all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
definitely look us up in all those places. So,
cool. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I love it. Well, thank you guys for being a part of the podcast. Seriously, you guys are amazing, crushing it. I think 2025 is going to be awesome. So
it is. Awesome. It is.
We're excited for it.
Love it. Cool. Good job, guys. Sweet. Good deal.